What is going on, YouTube? So I just want to thank every single one of my subscribers because I finally hit 1,000 subscribers. And oh, here comes a truck. So again, I just want to thank everyone that subscribed to my channel. Thanks for letting me hit that landmark. That was pretty incredible. And I got my support rods for my front lip on the car finally, so it's looking like it's supposed to now. And there's a bunch of leaves in the driveway, so I'm going to try to not walk as much because, of course, we're going to crunch around and stuff. So I figured with 1,000 subscribers, and it seems like my channel has actually exploded since I've done some SRT4 videos. So, another car coming. So I figured I would do a, so you want to buy a Dodge Neon SRT4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically walk around my car and go over like the differences between my year, which is 2005 model, versus like a 2003 and a 2004, and the kind of little differences they have in between the model years. They're not drastic or anything like that, but let me go ahead and tell you right off the bat, with 2003 models, they're rated at 215 horsepower, but that's kind of besides the point because every SRT4 you find nowadays are not stock, and if you can find a stock one, it's great. But I'm just going to be honest, a bone stock SRT4 is not really the holy grail of SRT4s to buy because there's still a lot of things on those cars that need to be replaced and fixed. And if you can find one with the right mods, and one major thing with any SRT4 bone stock are the multi-function switches. They apparently have really bad wiring issues, and they can actually melt and catch the car on fire. That's a huge thing that was going on with these cars. And one huge aftermarket mod out there are kinetic creation wiring harnesses. They're all plug and play. I highly recommend getting that multi-function switch wiring harness from Kinetic Creations. You can probably rewire, the whole system yourself, save some money, but honestly, the Kinetic Creations, like their wires and the way they label everything, they make it basically dummy proof. I highly recommend those guys. I have their fuel pump rewire, I have the multi-function switch plug and play harness, and I have the watt box plug and play harness. They're all great harnesses. So I just want to throw that out there right now, that, I mean, yeah, if you can find a stock SRT4, that's great, because you have pretty much an unmolested platform to start off with, which is cool. But I'd at least try to find one with just the slightest bit of mods, like an exhaust, intercooler, and an intake. That's some great mods right off the bat. And of course, a Diablo tuner is a good plus too, because that will start letting you mod the car. And you can actually contact a custom tuner and have tunes made specifically to your mods on your specific car, which is pretty cool. So, let me start with the 2003 models. So, again, like I said, bone stock 2003 models have 215 horsepower right off the lot, basically. They do not have the Quaife LSD that everyone wants, and trust me, you do want that. And it's kind of hard to find a 2003 nowadays without the Quaife swapped over, but usually when you do that, you have to replace the whole transmission. So if you buy a 2003, it's bone stock, that's something that I would myself want to replace. Another thing with the 2003s, the fuel rails on a 2003 are actually really nice. A lot of people want those to swap over into 2004 and 2005 models because they have a fitting on the end of the rail that allows you to hook up or make up a return line fuel system. With a 2004 and 2005 model, you either have to swap to the 2003 fuel rail or go with the aftermarket Boomba fuel rail, which is what I have. So that's one cool thing about a 2003. There's another weird setup on the 2003 in the valve cover. PCV valve is a screw-in top. It's not like a twist and pop plastic version like on a 2004 and 2005. They actually screw in. A lot of people will buy 2004 and 2005 valve covers to get rid of that issue, which I don't really see it as a bad thing, but I guess getting the pop-in valves are easier to obtain and stuff. So that's another weird quirk on the 2003 models. Oh, this video is going to have so much background noise. And 2003 models do not have these sport pedals. They have regular Dodge Neon pedals, which is kind of quirky too. Of course, 2004 and 2005s have these style pedals, which is, you know, what everyone wants. I don't think I've even seen the stock Neon pedals in an SRT4, so I think it's probably a common thing people swap out as well. So yeah, that's one weird thing about a 2003. So if you look up some very old forums, like the SRT forums, if you look up what year's the best to buy, a lot of people recommend the 2004 models because they don't have weird tip sensor issues, which honestly, that's a non-issue nowadays because that can be tuned out with the Diablo Sport, and everyone goes with 3-bar map sensors and tip sensors anyway, so that's a non-issue. I would not even worry about that. 2005 is personally the model year I would go after, because one thing that 2003 and 2004 models have issues with are battery temperature sensors. A lot of people complain about those, and the 2005 models do not have that. So that's one thing to look out for if you don't want an additional light on your dashboard to light up. So, but the tip sensor issues, they're a non-issue, because on the forums they will say once you start modding a 2005 you're going to have issues, the car's not going to run right. That's not true with the tuner and 3-bar map sensors, which you're going to need a tuner anyway to get the rescale tune for them. But like I said, nowadays that's not even an issue. That may have been an issue back in 2005 and 2006, just so people didn't have buyer's remorse buying a 2004 over 2005. Honestly, like I said, there's really no differences between the model years. 2003 has got the biggest quirks. It's got the plain transmission, plain pedals, and the weird setup in the valve cover, and but the fuel rail on a 2003 is, like I said, it's actually got this fitting back here on its stock, which the 2004s and 2005s do not have. So as far as buying any model year, honestly, I'd shoot for 2004 or 2005. And like I said, if you just want to avoid the battery temperature sensor in general, which people start having issues with that when they relocate their batteries in the back, again, I'm pretty sure a tuner can tune that out, so that's no issue at all. Now, if you are out in the market looking for a SRT4, there's 3 main stages, and these are actually factory Mopar stages. And stage 1 is basically what my car used to be. That's your basic fuel injectors, basic tune, 235 horsepower out of the box. Stage 2 is just a little bit better. You have bigger fuel injectors. I can't think of what size they are off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure stage 2 and stage 3 both share the same fuel injectors. And the stage 3 car actually has a bigger turbo. It has a TD05 instead of the stock TD04 turbo. It's on the stage 1 and 2s. But trying to find a stage 3 car is very rare, and they're expensive. So if you can come across a stage 3 car for a good price, I would definitely shoot for that car, because they have a lot more potential out of the gate than a stage 1 or 2. And there's what they call a toys package with these cars that come with toggles in the dash. This little spot right here that's deleted on my car, they actually have a I think you have different boost settings. You have a fuel setting, like for race fuel, and you have a intercooler sprayer button, which those are very cool, and they bring in a lot of money. I've seen those things for sale, and they bring in a pretty good premium. So I can't really go in depth with the stage cars too much because honestly I don't know much about it. I think I've pretty much hit the highlights of what to look for. Again, stage 3 with toys, that would be insane. You're talking about a lot of money, but it seems like it's a pretty good investment. And in 2005, the ACR model came out, which has a little bit different suspension. It's a little lower, and it has stock 15-inch BBS wheels, which I think look really good. So that's another car that holds a premium price tag that I would shoot for if you can find one for a good price. I don't know if they've done the stages with the ACR models or not, but if you can get a stage 3 ACR, if there is such a car, that would be probably the one SRT4 that will hold its value throughout any year, and it'll probably actually be something to hold on to as a collector's item. ACRs actually have better seats too. The seats can allow a racing harness to be attached. My car and the regular SRT4s just have the regular Viper inspired racing seats, which they have some issues that I'm gonna hit on the end of this video of what to look out for when you're buying these cars. So again, if you want a little bit stiffer suspension right out of the box, cooler seats, and of course you have cool ACR badges on the side, that's something I would look out for too, ACR car. So 2005 ACR would be a great car to look for, especially if there is such thing as a stage 3 ACR. I'm not entirely sure if they done stages with those cars, but if they did, that'd be sweet. So now I guess I'll go over the things you need to look out for when you're buying these cars. And one thing I can think of right off the bat, since you can see mine, are the sunroofs. Mine has no issues. I haven't had a single leak or mechanical issue with it trying to open up or close, but apparently it was a big common problem with these cars. I don't know why, but people complain about them, the motors giving out, or they leak, or somehow pop out of track. I don't know how, but just keep it clean. I mean, I keep mine lubricated. I keep lithium grease in the railing. So again, like I've said, I'm just doing the preventative maintenance with my sunroof to avoid any issues in the future. So that's one thing to look out for. I've actually seen a couple of them actually, on the Facebook Marketplace, where people actually silicone their sunroofs shut. I do not recommend that. If you're going to have sunroof issues, either fix it, but do not sit there and silicone it shut, because that kills the resale value of the car. Do not do that. But that is one thing to look out for. So I personally love sunroofs, so I sold my Mazda Miata to get this car, so the open air experience isn't quite the same with a sunroof, but I like having the option, you know, to be able to have a little bit of extra air and sunlight come in through the car. And something else to look out for are these dash pad covers. They are really prone to cracking. That's just, this car at its roots, it's a Dodge Neon, people. This interior, none of this is SRT4. This is straight up all Dodge Neon components. You have this right here, that's the only difference in a Dodge Neon versus an SRT4. The gauges are different, but the steering wheel, the plastic, the center console, all this stuff right here is a Dodge Neon. These pillars, Dodge Neon, which is cool because if you want to get replacement pillars, all you need is just to go to a junkyard and find a second gen Dodge Neon, and you have pretty much all the parts at your disposal. A lot of people actually swap, once their SRT4 dash pad is cracked, they'll actually swap over regular Neon dash pad, which eliminates this boost gauge right here. But they just slap on these gauge pillars right here and run their boost gauges through that. So, like I said, mine was cracked when I got my car. It is a very common issue. I replaced mine. So that's something to look out for. If you can find a car that's been modded with solid motor mounts, you're going to expect some rattles. Mine's also got the balance chain delete. That on top of solid motor mounts is almost excruciating, hearing every rattle. You'll fix one and 3 more will pop up. I just gave up on it. So again, that's more of this is basically an economy car with a souped up motor basically. So you're still going to have the economy car interior. Well, the seats are different from a regular Dodge Neon, but a common issue with the SRT4s in general are these ripped bowstring on the side of the seats. I don't know what happens, I guess over time, like if you're wearing Carhartts like I am, they actually probably rub the seats raw, I guess. That's one thing to look out for. If roll-up windows bother you, then the rears are roll-up. I actually kind of like this. I think it's cool, but I think this is actually a Dodge Neon issue in general. It's not just specific to the SRT4s. So that's one thing to look out for if this bothers you, if you're looking for an SRT4. And the rear seats are different from a regular Neon, but other than that, you're basically talking a Dodge Neon interior in here. And another thing that you need to look out for when buying a modified car is, and I can't stress this enough, is look out for wiring issues. Lots of people back in the day would do things called map clamps. I don't know what that is. It's just stuff done before handheld tuners are made. It was ways people could tune their car and add more boost and fuel or whatever. But look for wiring. Again, like I said, I have a plug-and-play kinetic creation harness. See, you can see it, how he wraps his wiring in this nice little sleeve here. But another thing is, over here, if people run watt boxes and stuff, they will hack into this right here, this harness right here, which mine, again, is plug-and-play, so that's normal. But if you see anything that's been spliced, taped, anything like that, just make sure the car has no issues whatsoever, because that will be a huge rabbit hole of trying to sit down and diagnose if you do have issues with the car. Again, you have another sensor over here, your cam position sensor, that people will cut into for a watt box. And I don't know if you can really see if I can get the camera down here. The throttle position sensor, they can hack into that. That's another issue. Some people actually had wiring issues with a stock sensor. The wires can actually wiggle loose. Some people add in like a TPS sensor extension, which if that's not been soldered correctly, you'll have issues with that too. Now, as far as mechanical things to look out for when you're buying the car, these engines are actually very stout for what they are. To be a Dodge Neon, you know, to be a motor inside a Dodge Neon, these things are stout. They can hold 500 horsepower on the bottom end all day long. The stock camshafts are actually really strong. I mean, they're good for big turbo setups. That's something you don't see swapped out often. Just the main thing you have to look out for is stock turbo issues. The seals can go bad on them. So if a car smokes, if it's, you know, blowing blue smoke, it's more than likely a turbo issue than it is a head gasket or anything like that. But of course, make sure it's not a head gasket issue. Check the coolant, check the oil, make sure there's no contamination. Again, check for smoke. If the car is blowing white smoke out the exhaust, then more than likely you're having a coolant and exhaust issue with a head gasket. So that's just common sense stuff to look out for in any car. But the turbo seals is a pretty big issue. So if they're still running a stock turbo on a higher mileage car, you're probably going to have smoke issues. But as far as reliability and the mechanical factor of these engines, they're basically bulletproof. Any issue I've ever had with my car has actually been me. They've been self-inflicted with upgrades and stuff like that. I just didn't take my time installing certain stuff. But again, like I said, as far as if you can find a bone stock car, expect crazy reliability out of it. One thing I can say is these cars do not like auto parts store junk. Like this power steering pump, that's the reservoir is a Dorman, yeah, that came from O'Reilly's, but the power steering pump itself is actually a Mopar pump. I've had to replace it twice because I went to O'Reilly's and got a power steering pump from them, which lasted maybe a couple months. So again, with these sensors right here, make sure you go Mopar. Throttle position sensor, Mopar. These coils, make sure you get a Mopar or anything but MSD. I've heard those have lots of issues. I have MSD plug wires, which they seem to be doing pretty good. And a lot of people run NJK 4306 spark plugs, which are really good in these cars, and people will gap them down to the 32. So that's just, you know, as far as maintenance wise, like I said, everything on this car is cheap and basically bulletproof. Just make sure you just, when you're replacing sensors and stuff, go OEM. You know, spend a little extra and don't worry about it. So now I'm going to go over the infamous transmission issues these cars have. That is the #1 thing to look out for on these cars, the transmission. The transmissions in these cars are a T850. They came out of a Mercedes diesel truck wagon looking thing, and honestly, the only reason they went with that is because it's the only front wheel drive transmission that could handle the torque of the SRT4. These transmissions don't like quick shifts. It's just because you're basically dealing with a truck transmission. I have a Mad Dog short throw shifter, which is a mod that I highly suggest that you do if you can't find a car with this already. Preferably a Mad Dog with the rod brakes. There's some old school ones out there that didn't have the rod brakes. The Hurst short throw only has a rod brake for 3rd gear, but the Mad Dog has it for every gear, and you can adjust it too. You probably, I don't know if I can really show you guys or not, but yeah, you can see these bolts right here. You loosen these and this plate right here can slide back and forth, and what it does, it's like it's just a stop, so you can't overthrow your shift, or your shifters, shifts, whatever, and it basically prevents you from putting stress on your shifter cables and stuff like that. So that is one mod I highly recommend. When you drive the car, I'm gonna have another clip that I'm gonna show driving the car, but when you are driving the car, make sure it can downshift into 3rd gear without rev matching. Rev matching will usually mask the issue, but 3rd gear will pop out and grind. My car did not have the issue. One of the reasons I bought my car. Another thing is a car with a little bit higher mileage on it. Mine is not too bad. I don't consider 148,000 miles that high. Other people will. But the stock clutch on these cars are not good. They are good for these cars bone stock. But as soon as you start adding any little bit of power to these cars, the clutches like to give out. E85 will kill your clutch. So my car has a South Bend Stage 2 endurance clutch. It's a pretty good clutch. It's a little stiffer than stock, but you can still daily it, no issue. You can run E85 with this clutch. But the biggest thing to look out for, if I was going to buy a car personally, I would love to have a ACT street disc. That right there is probably the best clutch for a good daily. For a car like mine, it's got a big wheel stalker on it. I have the typical full bolt-on set on my car right now, which is probably what you're going to find on the marketplace too. So if you can find a car with any type of mods to blow off valves, stuff like that, a tune, anything that's going to increase power just a little bit, make sure the clutch is still good or it's been recently replaced. And if it's aftermarket, honestly, I don't think you can go worse than OEM, because OEM is basically right there at the very level. Alright, so one major thing you want to look out for when buying the car and driving it is make sure this thing can downshift in 3rd gear without grinding or popping out. You want a transmission that will do that. Downshift into every gear without rev matching. Now, there's some cars you can actually rev match, and wow, there's a bunch of crap in the road, and it will avoid it grinding and popping out. But you still have a transmission that's going to give you issues in the future, so you might as well just get a transmission that can hit third gear with no issues. So make sure every gear, you know, it will go into each gear. Another thing to do is put the car in fourth gear, put your e-brake down, at a stop of course. This is how you can test the clutch. Ease off the clutch like you're wanting to pull out. Yep, see how the car stalled out? You got a good clutch. Now if the car was going to pull out and keep driving like I was pulling out in first gear, you got a bad clutch, and that's something you're going to have to look forward to replacing down the road too. So that's like something I can point out driving that you guys need to look out for if you're test driving the car. Just make sure, at third gear especially, I hear upshifting in third gear is not so much an issue, but downshifting to third without rev matching is a big problem that everyone has with these cars. Another thing to look out for if you're trying to buy a car is look out for rust in this general area right here. Lots of people have quarter panel rust on their cars. My car does not have any rust whatsoever. Again, one of the huge things I was looking out for because I do not want a rust bucket. So right here is a very, very common area for rust. So just make sure if rust is a big issue for you, open the door and make sure, because a lot of people will mask the outside, but the inside will still be rusting from the inside out. So just keep an eye out for rust. So basically, that's everything. If you are in the market looking for one of these cars, that right there is some stuff that will highlight the goods about the car and what to look out for when buying the car. So if you are in the market for one of these cars and you haven't really done your research, I highly recommend that you do your research. Make sure the car has some, you know, good mods, like some really good things to look out for, like if you've seen a car tuned by Dave Trojan or Duster 360, same person, or MTI, those are the best tuners for these cars. So if you're out there reading through mod list and you see those two tuners specifically, that's a good sign. Mad Dog shifters, that's a good sign. Name brand blow-off valves. AGP hard pops, that's a big thing too. My car has hard pops. The stock intercooler piping usually has some issues. As the car ages, they will have boost leaks. I don't know what the stock piping looks like. My car had the hard pops on it when I bought it. So, and you can tell if your car has hard pops because usually the blow-off valve will be welded onto a flange. If a car has the Mopar blue plate, is what people call it, I would recommend deleting that, going with a proper block-off plate. Another thing to look out for are vacuum lines. I can't really go in-depth with that, but usually when people start adding blow-off valves and stuff like that, the car will start having issues. Usually that can be remedied easily with the proper vacuum lines. The big front mount intercoolers, it really doesn't matter what brand you get. MPX, Modern Performance, same thing, but they make some really good quality stuff. The brakes on these cars, factory, are really good. I still run the factory brakes, the rotors and the calipers. They do really good. Depot taillights, depot headlights. That's some really good cosmetic things you can do to your car that if someone's already done, it can save you money. My wheels are XXRs. That's a very common wheel setup on these cars. Turbo Bay is a very good turbo supplier if you're going with a stock kind of look. I have a Turbo Bay big wheel stalker on here myself. That's a very good brand to look out for. And of course, Stage 3 cars have the larger TD05 turbo, which is something to look out for too. That's really good. AGP wastegates. There's adjustable wastegates. That's a good brand. Intakes. Mine was a short ram intake. As you can see, my filter was laying like inside the fender well of my car. They make a full-blown coated intake on these cars to actually route down to the bottom of the car inside the bumper, like in front of the driver's side tire there. I personally would run away from those because you're just asking to hydrolock a car. But other than that, that's the things I can think of, like, off the top of my head, because this video is 28 minutes long so far, and I haven't even added in my transmission clip. But this right here, I'm trying to be as in-depth as I can. So like I said, if you're in the market and you haven't done much research, this kind of hits the key highlights of what to look out for on these cars. But I'm a rear-wheel drive person myself. This is my first front-wheel drive car I've ever owned, and it's actually, I mean, I love it. I think it's pretty fun. It's very practical. In the rain and stuff, it handles way better than any rear-wheel drive car does. I mean, I like getting sideways in the Miata, but as far as being comfortable and handing my keys over to somebody, I'd rather them drive this car versus the Miata in the rain, because you can really get hurt in that car if you don't know what you're doing. This car right here has traction issues in the rain, which usually, I mean, if you're not being stupid, you're going to have traction no matter what. So, torque steer, that is something I've never experienced before, and you will experience that with this car, trust me. It's not really that bad, just be prepared for it if you ever do a first, second gear pull, wide open throttle. These cars are spacious. I mean, you have 4 doors. I get pretty decent gas mileage with this car if I can stay out of it. And you can get it tuned for E85. These cars are basically, from the factory, can run E85. They have stainless steel fuel lines. So that's a plus right there. All you need is a bigger fuel pump, like a Walbro 255, and then fuel injectors and a tune, you're good to go. The trunk on these cars, matter of fact, I'm gonna pop it and show you guys. Mine's probably not the best example, but you have lots of storage. I have a 12-inch subwoofer back there right now, and a toolbox, and a bunch of random crap right there, and I still have plenty of room. So, as far as having a quick daily driver, it's decent on gas if you keep your foot out of it, and 4 doors, plenty of room. I would highly suggest these cars. And nothing is better than beating big V8 cars and telling them they had just lost to a Dodge Neon. It's just a Neon. So you have that right there too. You can embarrass a lot of cars, especially with the slightest bit of bolt-on mods. These cars are pretty quick for what they are. I mean, they're not the fastest things out there, but like I said, for a good daily driver that's practical, I'd say with snow tires or all seasons, the right tires, this car, I'm going to drive this in the winter. I mean, of course, if it's real bad, I'm going to take my Jeep out, but the only issue I see with this car is just clearance issues with snow. But I swear, with the right snow tires, this car would be great. So, again, if you're out in the market, just this video will focus on the highlights of what to look out for. Look out for that. If the car that you've been looking at pretty much follows the guidelines of this video, then you pretty much have a good car on your hands. And I would honestly shoot for it. I mean, these cars are getting more and more rare by the minute. People are out here trashing them and wrecking them and parting them out. So if you can find a clean one and take care of it and not be stupid with it, then I highly recommend grabbing you a Dodge Neon SRT4. So again, I want to thank everyone for subscribing and get me past that 1,000 milestone that I've been looking for. So this is just kind of an appreciation post too, and this is for everyone that's helped my channel grow, which are a bunch of SRT4 viewers. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope this video can help some people out.